So today we're going to review Chapter 4, go over some of the main points in Chapter 4, look at a lot of different questions, making sure we understand how to work through these types of questions that deal with slope, slope-intercept form, lines in a graph, that type of stuff. So we're going to go ahead and jump in. The main thing, the way this video is going to work is I'm going to pull up examples, and for you to get the most out of this video yourself, it would be beneficial for you to pause the video, try the examples on the PowerPoint or on the slides, and then after you try them, start the video again and then watch me as I go through them. I think that's the most beneficial way, because if you just watch me do it, you'll be like, oh, I know how to do that, yeah. But if you're not trying it on your own, you'll never know if you actually do or you just think you do because you remember what I'm going through. So again, best thing for you to do would be pause the video, try these questions on your own, and then start it back as I go over them myself. So first thing we'll start with is finding slope of a line. Okay, so again, I'll give you a chance, pause the video, try these, but hopefully you've paused and tried it on your own. The main thing, it says find the slope of the line through the given points. So there's two examples here, part A and part B. You should remember the slope formula that you have to know to find slope. Again, like I've reiterated and like I have emphasized many times, you are not given this slope formula, so you have to know it yourself. So the slope formula is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Like I said, that is very, very important. You have to know how to use this and what that is. So once you have that, remember to find slope, all you're going to do is label your points with x1, y1, x2, y2, and then you plug them into your slope formula and just work it out and simplify. So again, remember, in an ordered pair, your x comes first, so this could be my x1, my y1, and this is x2, y2. So once you label your ordered pairs, again, like I said, you're just plugging in the exact numbers that go with each variable. So my y2 in this equation is 5. I bring down my minus sign, minus. That's very important because I have students all the time get their signs messed up, because I bring down the minus and then I check out what my y1 is, and that is 1. So 5 minus 1 goes on the top of the fraction. On the bottom, we have x2, which is negative 1, minus, and then I check out what my x1 is, which is negative 3. So that's the main part where I see students get confused or get trip up, is where they have a minus, a negative sign, and they just want to put one minus sign. Remember, this is minus a negative, so that's very important to get your signs correct. So then we have to just simplify the top and bottom. 5 minus 1 is 4 over negative 1 minus negative 3. Okay, and you can try that in your calculator if you're not sure what that is. And a trick that I give students is, if you have back-to-back negative signs, this is minus a negative, that can actually just turn into a positive. So this is really just negative 1 plus 3. And that is simpler to see because then negative 1 plus 3 is just 2. So remember, you don't just leave it like that because this can be reduced. If it couldn't be reduced, yes, you would just leave it as an improper fraction. But since this can be reduced, 4 divided by 2 is 2. So that is your final answer. Your slope of these lines is 2. Okay, so that is what your answer would be for that slope. So let's try the second one. Again, we have this equation, or this formula for slope that we need to know. Then we're just going to label our ordered pairs over here. So x comes first, so x1, y1, x2, y2. All right, so once those are labeled, we just plug in to this formula. So my y2, 15, minus my y1 is 4, over my x2 is 4, minus my x1 is 10. All right, so then we simplify the top. 11, or sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. 15 minus 4 is 11, over 4 minus 10 is negative 6. And then if you just have one of the numbers negative, whether it be on top or bottom, that just means the whole fraction is negative. So this is a negative 11 over 6. And then you say, can that reduce? No, it can't. So since this cannot reduce or simplify at all, your not fraction, well, it is a fraction, but your slope is the fraction negative 11/6. That is your slope of this line. So you can find slope just by being given 2 points. So make sure you remember and are familiar with that, because you'll have to know that for the test. You also will be given tables that you have to find slope of as well. So remember, with tables, you're doing it the same way. Instead now, they're giving you 4 points on each table, but you only need 2 to find slope. So you choose 2 points out of each table to solve. So like, let's look at part A. You still need to remember your slope formula, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So you have to choose 2 points. It doesn't matter what points you choose. Just remember, the ones that are above and below each other go together. So 0 and negative 1 is a point, 1, 0, 2, 1, and 3, 2. So it doesn't matter which points you choose. So for example, I'm going to choose just that point and that point. So we have 0, negative 1, and 2, 1. Like I said, you can choose any points you want. Those are just 2 random ones I picked out. So then we'll label our points, x1, y1, x2, y2. Then we're going to use that to plug in to our equation, or our slope formula. My y2 is 1, minus my y1 is negative 1. My x2 is 2, minus my x1 is 0. Then we simplify top and bottom. 1 minus negative 1. Remember, back-to-back negatives is the same as a plus, so this is 1 plus 1 is 2, over 2 minus 0 is 2. And we simplify that. 2 divided by 2 is just 1. So our slope of table A is just 1. Alright, let's look at the second one. Using the same strategy. We pick out 2 points. I'll just choose these last 2, because like I said, it doesn't matter which ones you choose. So we have 2, 5, and 4, 6. So we have x1, y1, x2, y2. So we'll plug in. My y2 is 6, minus my y1 is 5, over x2 is 4, minus x1 is, x1 is 2. So then we simplify. 6 minus 5 is 1, 4 minus 2 is 2. 1/2 cannot reduce any further, so there is your slope. Your slope of the table B is 1/2. The main thing you want to watch for with tables especially is that make sure you reduce if possible. Because for example, if I would have chose these 2, I would have had to reduce my fraction at the end. So definitely pay attention if you can reduce. Do that if possible. But that's how we find slope of tables from there. So after that, let's get into graphing linear equations. So with graphing linear equations, again, I would take a second, pause this, try these on your own. You're going to have to make some coordinate planes. I'm going to move you, after you write each of those three down, we'll move over to the coordinate plane over on the other side of the classroom. But let me review real quick. These are going to be in slope-intercept form to graph. Remember, slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b, with m being your slope and b being your y-intercept. So remember the steps we use to graph in slope-intercept form. The first point comes from what? Your y-intercept. So your y-intercept is where you use your first point, or what you use to make your first point on graph. And then after that, we use our slope using the key phrase, rise over run. Okay, and we'll talk about and look at how we do that. So make sure you've got those written down. We're going to move over to the coordinate plane to graph these equations. Okay, so our first equation is y equals 2x minus 6. So remember, the first point, like we discussed, comes from your y-intercept, which is, in this case, your last number, your b. This y-intercept would be negative 6. Remember, that minus sign comes with it. So negative 6 is our y-intercept, not positive 6. So negative 6 means on the y-axis, not the x-axis. I still have people get that confused. Not this axis. I have to go on the y-axis to negative 6, and on that line, or on that axis, I make my first point at negative 6. From there, I use my slope. So my slope in this problem is 2. But remember, we need rise over run, so we need our slope in fraction form. If you're given a whole number to make it a fraction, you just put it over 1. So our rise over run in this problem would be 2 over 1. So we start from the point we just made, not from the origin. From the point we just made, we do rise over run. Our rise is positive 2, so that means we go up. So up 2, 1, 2, and then our run is positive 1, meaning we go to the right 1. So after both movements, that's when you make another point. It'll be right there. Then I can do that again. Rise 2, run 1. And then I'll draw my line through those points. And this is the line that represents the equation y equals 2x minus 6. So this would be your answer. Okay, let's look at the next one. We have y equals negative 4x plus 8. Y equals negative 4x plus 8. So again, first point comes from where? The y-intercept. Okay, our y-intercept in this problem is positive 8. That's in the b slot of y equals mx plus b. So positive 8, I go to positive 8 on the y-axis and make a point. There's your first point of your line. From there, we use our slope. So our slope in this y equals mx plus b is your m. Negative 4 is in the m spot. To make that a fraction, because we need it for rise over run, put a 1 under it. So we have negative 4 over 1. So that means our rise is negative 4. So that means from this point, I have to go down 4 because it's negative. Okay, so down 4 is 1, 2, 3, 4. And then positive 1 means I go right 1 or run 1. And that's where I can make a point. I can do it again. 1, 2, 3, 4 down, and then 1 to the right. And that's what we're looking like. So our slope, or our graph of y equals negative 4x plus 8 will look like this. So this is your answer for the graph y equals negative 4x plus 8. All right, let's look at the last one. We have y equals negative x minus 8. Y equals negative x minus 8. We're doing the same thing. First point comes from your b, which is your y-intercept. So our b in this case is negative 8. That sign goes with it. Negative 8 is our b. So on the y-axis, I go down to negative 8. That's where we make our first point. This might throw a few students off because they don't see an m. But remember, if there's no number in front of that x, what's that invisible number? A 1. And plus there's a negative sign, so that means our slope is negative 1. So negative 1 is our slope, and then again we can put that over 1 to make it in rise over run form. So if there's no number in front of x, remember that number is 1. And then since we have a negative sign, that is negative 1. So from this point, my top number is negative 1. That's my rise. So since it's negative, I go down 1 and then right 1. That's another point. I can do it again. Down 1, right 1. So this is the graph right there. That is your graph that represents y equals negative x minus 8. Okay, so the key thing with graphing is making sure you're in slope-intercept form. Okay, once you're in slope-intercept form, your first point comes from your y-intercept. So you make your first point on this axis. That's where your first point always comes from. You should never make a first point on this axis. Make sure you understand that. So first point's graphed on the y-axis. Then after that, you use your slope in rise over run form to make another point from that y-intercept. And then you can do that, repeat that process to get 3 points, and then you'll have your line. Okay, let's move back over to look at the last type of problems that we might have in chapter 4. So our last type is from section 4.6, where they give us the line and they ask us to write an equation of the line in slope-intercept form. Okay, so if we're writing an equation in slope-intercept form, obviously we need to know what slope-intercept form is, which is y equals mx plus b. Like I mentioned at the beginning, I would pause this video and try these on your own first before you do them with me. So I'm going to go ahead and put y equals mx plus b on each of these 4 examples. And we'll go through each of them. So remember, the 2 things we need to replace are our m and our b. Our m is our slope. Our b is our y-intercept. Y-intercept is usually easier to be able to pick out. So if I look at this first one, on my y-axis, where this line crosses that y-axis is at -2. So that means in place of b, I'm going to put -2. So -2, that minus sign's not very good. -2 goes in place of b because that's your y-intercept. Okay, then we have to find our slope. So remember, with graphs, slope is rise over run. So I'm just going to count from how many slots it takes to get from this point to this point. So first I'll do rise, which obviously I need to go up, which is 1, 2, 3 spots. Up is positive, so +3 was my rise. So m equals positive 3 on top. And then my run would be 1, 2, 3. That will also be 3, positive. So we have a slope of 3 over 3. So you have a slope of 3 over 3. That just reduces to 1. So that means in place of m, I'm just going to put 1. And really, you don't have to put 1 if you don't want to. So this could be written in two different ways. It could be y equals 1x minus 2, or just y equals x minus 2. Because remember, if it's a 1, it's invisible and can just be written like this. Either of these would be acceptable for this. All right, let's look at the second one. Again, you want to look where your b is, which is your y-intercept. My b on this problem, this line crosses the y-axis at positive 1. So that means in place of b, I'm going to put a positive 1. Okay? My m, again, you're trying to find your slope. So m, I need to find rise over run. So I'm going to go from my left point to my right point. M will equal my rise. As you can see, I'm going to have to go down first. So if I'm going down, that's negative. 1, 2, 3, 4. So negative 4 is what my rise was. Negative 4. Over my run to the right, 1, 2, since it's to the right, that's positive. And then I can reduce this. Negative 4 divided by 2 is just negative 2. So my m, what I'm replacing my m with, would be negative 2. So my slope-intercept form equation for this graph, would be y equals negative 2x plus 1. This goes with this. All right, let's go to the next one. Your b, hopefully you're catching on and getting the hang of this by now. Your b, where your y-intercept is being intercepted, hence the name, is at positive 4. So b is replaced by positive 4. And then to find slope, you do your rise over run. So my m, I'm going to look for my rise first. So if I'm going from this point to this point, I'm going to have to go down first. Down 1, 2. And since I'm going down, that's negative. Negative 2 is my top number. Over my run would be to the right. 1, 2, 3, 4. Positive 4. Then you check to see if this can be reduced. In this case, it can. So negative 2 over 4 reduces to negative 1 half. So my m that I replace in this problem would be negative 1 half. So my final answer would be y equals negative 1 half x plus 4 to represent this graph. All right, so let's look at the last one. Your b is your first thing you can replace. And as you can see, the y-axis is being intercepted at negative 3. So that means you take the plus sign out as well and put minus 3. Your m, remember that is your slope. So I need to find m, which is rise over run. So I'm going to rise from this point, 1, 2, 3, 4. Since I was going up, that's positive 4. So I'm positive 4 on the top. Over to the right, 1, 2, positive 2. And then you can reduce 4 divided by 2 is 2. So therefore, y equals, that's a bad 2. Y equals 2x minus 3. That's the graph that goes with this, or that's the equation that goes with this graph. So lots of different examples on chapter 4. Hopefully that helped you understand a little more. Hopefully you got the most out of it by pausing the video and trying it on your own. Like I said, chapter 4, a lot of students actually like chapter 4 because they think finding slope is easy or fun, and they like to take graphs and create the equations from those. So hopefully you got a lot out of that. Like I said, keep watching this video if you're still confused, because chapter 4 has a lot of good and important information in it. So hopefully that helped. Let me know if you have any questions. Thanks.